It's happening right before our eyes. The European dream, once a symbol of progress and stability, is now falling apart. Banks are collapsing, economies are failing, and millions of people are waking up to a new, terrifying reality. Which nations are on the brink of collapse? And more importantly, could this chaos spread across the rest of the world? Stay with me until the end, because the last country on this list, and no one saw coming. Europe is in crisis, and it's getting worse by the day. Decades of economic power are unraveling. Rising debt, political instability, and a crippling energy crisis are pushing entire nations to the brink. Banks are struggling. Inflation is out of control. And for millions of people, survival is becoming harder than ever. But why should you care? Because when Europe collapses, the shockwaves won't stop here. A financial disaster of this scale could send ripple effects across the globe, affecting economies, markets, and even your future. The real question is, will these countries recover? Or is this just the beginning of the end? Italy number 7, Italy. This country is in serious trouble, and no one is talking about it. Italy is drowning in debt, over $3 trillion. That's one of the highest debt levels in the world, and it's only getting worse. The economy? Stagnant. Unemployment? Rising. Small businesses? Shutting down at an alarming rate. Experts warn that Italy is just one financial shock away from disaster. If a major bank fails, or if another recession hits, the entire system could collapse overnight. And here's the terrifying part. Italy's economy is deeply connected to the rest of Europe. If Italy falls, it won't just affect Italians. It could trigger a domino effect that sends shockwaves across the entire European Union. But the next country? Their crisis is even more dangerous, and it's spiraling out of control. 6. France. This country is on the brink of collapse, and the warning signs are everywhere. France, once considered one of Europe's strongest economies, is now falling apart from within. The streets of Paris? Packed with furious protesters. The cost of living? Skyrocketing. And the economy? Hanging by a thread. The crisis, protests, inflation, and energy shortages. For months, France has been paralyzed by mass protests. From workers demanding better wages to citizens outraged by rising taxes, the unrest is only getting worse. And it's not just political frustration, it's survival. White heavy checkmark inflation is crushing ordinary citizens. Basic necessities like food, fuel, and electricity are becoming unaffordable for many families. White heavy checkmark businesses are shutting down. Small shops, restaurants, and even large industries are struggling to stay afloat as costs spiral out of control. White heavy checkmark energy shortages are pushing France to the edge. Dependence on foreign energy sources, combined with record-breaking electricity prices, is creating a crisis worse than anyone expected. The risk: a recession worse than 2008? Remember the global financial crash of 2008? Economists warn that France could be heading for something even worse. Collision public debt is at an all-time high. France owes more money than ever before, and repaying it is becoming nearly impossible. Collision, the middle class, is disappearing. Wages aren't keeping up with inflation, and more people are falling into poverty. Collision investors are pulling out. When confidence in a country's economy disappears, businesses collapse. And that's exactly what's happening in France. If this downward spiral continues, France could be looking at a full-scale economic meltdown. And when a powerhouse like France crumbles, the rest of Europe will feel the shockwaves. But what if I told you the next country is collapsing for a completely different reason? Because while France's downfall is fueled by financial struggles, the next nation on our list is battling a crisis that could destroy millions of lives in a matter of months. Number 5. Spain. This country is in serious trouble, and barely anyone is paying attention. On the surface, Spain might seem stable, with its bustling cities and booming tourism industry. But underneath, a disaster is brewing. One that could wipe out savings, crush families, and send shockwaves through Europe's economy. The crisis: unemployment, aging population, and a real estate bubble. Spain is facing a perfect storm of economic problems, and the signs are everywhere. White heavy checkmark youth unemployment is at a staggering 29%. almost a third of young Spaniards can't find work, creating a lost generation with little hope for financial security. White heavy checkmark, an aging population is draining the economy. With fewer young workers contributing to the system, Spain is struggling to support pensions, healthcare, and public services. White heavy checkmark, a real estate bubble is about to burst. Property prices have soared to unsustainable levels, and experts warn that Spain could see a housing market collapse worse than 2008. The risk: a property crash that could wipe out savings. If Spain's housing bubble bursts, the consequences will be devastating. Collision: millions of homeowners could see their property values plummet overnight. Collision: families who invested their life savings in real estate could lose everything. Collision: banks could collapse under the weight of bad loans, leading to financial chaos across the country. And if Spain falls, it won't stop there. A property crash could send shockwaves through the European Union, triggering a new financial crisis across the continent. But here's the terrifying part. The next country's collapse is happening even faster, and it's making global headlines. Number 4. Germany. This is Europe's economic powerhouse, the backbone of the continent. But now, it's breaking apart. Germany, once the driving force of European industry, is facing its worst economic crisis in decades. Factories are shutting down, businesses are collapsing, and the country's energy system is falling apart. If Germany goes down, it won't just be a national disaster, it will be a continental catastrophe. The crisis: industrial collapse, energy shortages, and business failures. For decades, Germany has been Europe's strongest economy. But now, the cracks are showing. White heavy checkmark, industrial production has plummeted. Manufacturing, the backbone of Germany's economy, is in freefall. Factories are closing at a record pace, and experts warn that millions of jobs are at risk. White heavy checkmark, the energy crisis is spiraling out of control. Germany's dependence on imported energy has backfired, leading to skyrocketing costs that are crippling businesses and consumers alike. White heavy checkmark, small and medium-sized businesses are shutting down. With rising costs and shrinking demand, thousands of German companies are going bankrupt, further deepening the economic crisis. The risk: if Germany falls, all of Europe follows. Here's why Germany's collapse is so dangerous. Collision: Germany is Europe's largest economy. What happens here affects the entire EU. Collision: a financial meltdown in Germany could trigger a recession across the continent. Collision: the EU's economic stability depends on Germany's strength, and right now, that strength is fading fast. And if Germany is struggling, the country that holds Europe together, what does that mean for the rest of the continent? Because the next country, its crisis is turning into pure chaos, and it's happening even faster than anyone expected. Number 3. United Kingdom. The UK is spiraling fast. Once one of the most stable economies in the world, Britain is now on the brink of an economic catastrophe. From skyrocketing inflation to a collapsing housing market, things are falling apart, and fast. Could this be the UK's worst financial crisis in modern history? Let's break it down. The crisis: post-Brexit chaos, inflation, and housing crash. Ever since Brexit, economic uncertainty has gripped the UK. But now, it's turning into full-blown instability. White heavy checkmark, post-Brexit trade disruptions have slowed economic growth, making it harder for businesses to survive. White heavy checkmark, inflation is out of control, with essential goods, food, and energy prices soaring beyond what many people can afford. White heavy checkmark, wages are stagnating, while the cost of living is hitting record highs. White heavy checkmark, the housing market is in crisis. Experts warn that home prices could plummet by 30%, pushing thousands of homeowners into financial ruin. The risk: the worst economic meltdown in modern history. If the UK's economy doesn't stabilize soon, here's what could happen. Collision: a full-scale recession, worse than anything seen in decades. Collision: mass job losses as companies struggle to stay afloat. Collision: a banking crisis if mortgage defaults skyrocket. And if Britain collapses economically, it won't just affect the UK, it will send shockwaves across the world. But here's the thing: